Caleb Johnson. Caleb breaks through a couple of people, gets across the 30. Oh, still going. Ran through a third one, still going. Cuts back to the middle. 40, 35, 30, 25, 20. It's going to be a touchdown.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Iowa Fan Perspective here on the Play the Fight Song family of networks. Excited to have you back in. Excited to talk Hawkeye football here on a bye week. Feels like it's well timed. Iowa's coming off a big game against Indiana that swept through our fingers a little bit. And just looking for a little bit of a reset for this team, figure out what's going on with special teams, figure out how we can improve the offense. What's Gronowski's situation? Where's the defensive holes and where can we fix things that direction? Getting pretty close to the meat of this Big Ten schedule, and you want to make sure you're prepared and ready for all of that. So happy everybody's joining in here today. Again, we're part of the Play the Fight Song network, the college football show we do weekly on Wednesday nights. Check us out. We're live on X, Facebook. We'll go live on YouTube as well, where you're watching this video right now. If you're listening on podcast, check us out on YouTube and all social channels at Play the Fight Pod. Ton of fun. We cover all 136. It's been an absolute banger of a college football season. Still young, still getting into it. But there's a ton of information and a ton of great content over there that we're putting together weekly. Check us out on all our socials, like I said, and the YouTube channel specifically. This is where you guys want to be. Subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. It's easy for you. It'll get you all your college football content. I think that's the easiest way to go about this whole thing, right? Just subscribe. Then you know when we're getting our videos out. You see all that. You see the live stream on your feed. Jump in and join us there. But we're talking Iowa football here on the Iowa Fan Perspective. This isn't going to be your X's and O's show. It's not going to be the show of overreactions and anything like that. It's not, I don't have an insider source. I do this as a fan who pays a lot of attention to certain things. I pay attention to what the beat writers are putting out, what the coaches are saying. I'm watching the games. It's as any diehard fan would. That's the whole point of this thing and how we react and how we see things. Usually we're here previewing the next week's opponent. It's bye week. So what do? We'll recap Indiana. We'll talk through everything. I know this will come out Wednesday, but there's things that I think as a fan you want to talk about and you want to air out and talk. So feel free, as I'm talking through things, put your comments down below. No giveaway this week. Iowa doesn't play, and nobody won last week. Getting the score correct. But next week when we go up to Madison and the Hawks got Wisconsin, we'll be back on giving away a free No Rivals hat if you get that score prediction correctly. What I will tell you, if you want a piece of that action, go to our Nebraska Fan Perspective or our Iowa State one. Guess the score over there. Like the video while you're there. You got to do it to get in the contest, and make sure you put your score prediction in their comments. Watch those videos. It's great content that Jake and Parks and JT all put out as well. Let's do one thing before we kind of get rolling into everything. I just kind of want to break down how the show will work. Again, usually I try to get a guest in here to talk about the team that we're previewing. What we'll have and hoping to have a Wisconsin one here in the next week or so. And right now, it's just me. We're going to talk Hawkeye football, my thoughts, and how I'm kind of handling everything in the moment. We'll start everything off just talking about the Indiana game, some thoughts, some reaction. Obviously, I've had a couple of days to kind of sit on it, looking back at it, rewatching the game, things I saw. What's next for Iowa? What's next for this team? What should the expectation be? Things that need fixed. What should the fan base be thinking is a possibility and a ceiling or a floor for this football team? And then overall, just kind of what I'm seeing for the rest of the year and the plan going forward. So those are the kind of things we'll cover here in this episode of the Fan Perspective here. Going to be a ton of fun. Super excited for it. Let's start by recapping the Indiana game. So Hawks fall in a close one to Indiana. Obviously, a little bit of a gut punch here on this show. When I was previewing it, I had Iowa losing this game pretty handily. I just didn't see a lot of situations where Iowa was going to be able to consider themselves and put themselves in a spot to succeed. Now, I was wrong, obviously. Phil Parker became Phil Parker again. Like, he just continues to do things and slow down offenses and be one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. I wish I had the all 22 to watch this and see what he did differently. I know a couple things just based on what some people are reporting and everything, that Iowa brought heat consistently at like an abnormal rate that a Phil Parker defense usually does. So that's one thing that changed. Mendoza was consistently under pressure. He threw a couple really good footballs anyway, being under that pressure with really good wideouts on the outside. So it's one thing to see that, but it's also really cool to see Phil Parker still on your side, right? Tough way to lose, especially with no expectation, right? If you go into that no expectation and you get beat by a score or two and it feels like it's never really in your grasp, that's one thing. To come in with no expectation and then to be like, oh, okay, we got a late game pick here. Here he comes. Then we drive down the field. The screen pass is kind of going a little bit viral on Iowa Twitter right now on Hank Brown maybe making the decision a little bit too quickly. Not getting he doesn't necessarily need his feet set, but just delivering a football onto somebody that needs to be caught. Don't know how many yards that grabs. And then the missed kick by Drew Stevens. Indiana gets the ball back. They kind of move down the field. Roll the dice on a blitz that had been home a couple of times throughout the game, and they score, and it just didn't feel like I was going to be able to move back down the field and get there. So just a gut punch way to get it. Like, that's the wrong way you want to feel about it as a fan, to be completely honest. Like, you really were hoping for to win that game in that situation and in that spot, but it's like your hopes are here, immediately ramped up to here. The energy's already high in that building, and then it just comes crashing down in half a second. So that's how everything felt there. Gronowski news as of like 9:15, 9:20 Tuesday night. I've looked on the message boards. I've looked through the 24/7 sports guys, Eichholt, Bach, and those guys have put out. Haven't seen anything today in the presser. Lester said that the MRI is done. MRI is done. There's no definitive answer on it right now. That makes me think we're at least going to miss at least a week with Wisconsin game, but who knows? Again, we don't know, and they don't have to. I don't know if they have to release it on the bye week on Thursdays like they would during game week, but I assume that's going to be close to the vest anyway, whether or not it's good or bad news. So obviously hoping the best for Mark. He's been great. Had a great year for the Hawks. Keeps getting better and better, and I think that shouldn't go unnoticed right there. Kind of talking about like the Hank Brown situation. I don't think that he got a fair shake. I understand that people are very upset about the screen pass not getting made. Yes, it's a play that should be made. Yes, it is a situation where maybe you make that play, you win the football game, or at least you're up 7 and Indiana has the ball with a chance to tie. But by the time Hank was in that second drive, like, they were bringing everybody, right? Like, they were teeing off knowing that Iowa had to throw the football around the yard and the receivers weren't getting separation. They told that defensive line, pin your ears back and go make a play. And that's the situation he was dealing with. So I don't really put that on him. I think he's going to be a better passer than Mark. I think he's got a better arm, a little more accurate in some spots. He's not going to bring the running ability. He's not going to bring the same package to the offense that, makes the run game go in a different way. But he can still be a good quarterback in this offense. Like, he was here for that reason. And obviously Lester had a say in bringing him in. So there's something Lester saw to bring a guy in like that. So again, just give him time. Let's give him a shot to take consistently more first team reps. He was doing it when Gronowski was hurt all summer and fall. So get him better and better, consistently get a chance to kind of feel the offense in a game situation or in a game week prep situation. And let's go from there. Like, it's too early to tell. Like, to be like the devil's advocate in the same way, you have to look at it like, hey, is an Iowa quarterback really going to consistently develop in this thing? We've been told yes, a billion times throughout the Ferentz era. It's fair. It's a fair thing to say, and nobody would really bat an eye at it. So just something to think about there. Also, you have to catch the football. There's another set of drops in this one that I think Iowa has 11 team drops. 11. That is not good. We are dropping footballs in our chest. We're dropping goal balls. We're dropping balls at the stick. There's a lot of things that go into making an offense roll, and drops is one of the biggest things that'll kill it. And it'll kill it on the spot, and it's a momentum killer, confidence killer, and a trust killer. It kind of depending on who your quarterback is and what the situation is. So, just one of those things you really got to pay attention to and pay attention and look at. Vanami, the kid from Kemper, I'm sure all the Kemper people here will give me a little bit of shit for pronouncing that name incorrectly, but played well. I thought had a drop, had a situation where he was a yard short of the sticks. He's not the only one to run a route short of the sticks on a second and long, probably a third long, fourth down situation. Like that is an epidemic in this offense. And if it's happening this consistently, that tells me one of two things, and I'm leaning towards one or the other. You let me know which one you think that is. One, we just don't know where the field sticks are. We don't know where we're supposed to be. Two, we're not being coached properly on it. Like, I'm not calling out coaches or anything, but it isn't being driven home enough to that is the first thing they look at when they come out, break that huddle. They're looking at how the field's set up. We're looking at where the sticks are, where my route's going to go after the play call. Something like that is off. It's just unacceptable because Mark is, and any quarterback is guaranteeing you to be in that spot, to be there ready for the football when he's ready from his drop, to be 1, 2, 3 in and out of his hands and on some numbers. And if you're not there, that's just, again, drive killers. We saw that again against Indiana. So just something to pay attention there. Also, there's a lot of tackling issues. Those woes continue. That number was higher in this one than in the Iowa State game, it looked like. Now, Indiana has some backs that really run well. I think we all kind of knew that. You look at what they were able to do. There was I think like 2 or 3 times that Indiana was basically like, let's just run a draw, let's run something up in the middle. And instead of getting them into a spot where it's second and long, they're moving the sticks, or they're second and 1 after we break tackles or in the wrong run fits, and they just continue running hard, and we're not there to make plays. They got 3 right before the end of the half on a draw that literally said, get me to halftime. I'm fine with it being 10-7. And he breaks that thing off 1 play away from a little flag to the outside, and then another play, and then bang, kick the field goal. We're tied 10-10 and a half. That's 3 points, fellas. It's a big difference. And Shire only having 3 tackles, Harrell only with 4. If Entringer, Lee, Lutmer, and Wampa are all your 4 leading tacklers, there's a problem. Wampa, downhill guy, plays run defense super well. So that one makes sense. Lutmer, kind of the same situation, but he's dropping back a ton in coverage. It has to be these linebackers. You look at when this Iowa defense is humming, linebackers are in the run fits. They're consistently in every tackle. They're sideline to sideline guys. It just hasn't been the case to this point. And I think there's a real mismatch when they start moving Harrell to cover guys on the outside, and they have to roll somebody back down to help with that. It's not the defense we're expecting or used to, which is fair. I understand that. They're still getting their feet under them a little bit. But missed tackles are missed tackles, and that's just something that can't happen. And there might be a little thing to say on the defensive line of we are letting guys get to the second level and third level way too easy. That's also a possibility. We may not be setting, an offensive line and getting him off his rocker a little bit, so he's not climbing level by level onto different guys. That's a possibility as well. But it is something to outline, and I wanted to outline. Special teams woes continue. Punt blocked and a missed kick. Name a time that happened twice in a year. I don't know the last time we had 2 punts blocked in a single year. UMass got one. Now Indiana gets one. Stevens is going through a little bit of a situation where maybe it's a confidence thing, missing kicks and field goals where kid was nails last year. And it's a little bit of a worry in that point, but you have to look at it as just performance is off. I didn't get to listen to LeVar Woods' presser today. I'd plan to do that tomorrow and just see what he has to say about the difference in it. And Indiana also, credit to them, took advantage of every single situation on special teams, made their plays, made their kicks, and didn't give Weechin any opportunity to return a kick. That thing was out of the back of the end zone, This ball is not getting kicked short in the slightest. He cannot return anything. That's a game plan thing. That's a Weechin effect. But at the same time, we did find ways to get him the football on the offensive side of things, and it worked out to a point, right? But it is something to kind of look at and pay attention to, and just kind of put yourself in a spot where you're looking at it, hoping that it just gets better, because it does lose football games. You're used to Iowa finding ways in the margins to win football games. Now we're dealing with a spot where it felt like it might have lost one for us. again, I talked about PFF and other guys talking about it. I was bringing 5+ on 70% of Indiana's dropbacks. Not a Phil Parker thing to do. Worked out pretty well. That's an Indiana team who, outside of a couple missed tackles and a couple good runs, and Mendoza just throwing dimes consistently in between the zone coverages and spots, held in check, man. The touchdown drive early off a turnover, and it was 2 plays touchdown. They didn't score another touchdown to the second half. Like, you weren't really looking at a team that was just carving Iowa. And I think that's fair to know. And Iowa drug them into a game that they wanted to play, and that's fair to say. So, I really would have liked to have that one, but I came into it with such low expectations that it doesn't change my perception on this team and everything like that. Like, I still think this is the same football team I thought it was Friday before that game that it was Sunday after that game. Yes, losing the way Iowa's lost this year is tough. We're not used to it. It's a little bit of a different change. But again, it doesn't change my perception of who this team is and everything. So that's my Indiana game recap. Like, drop. Oh my goodness, words are hard today. Drop your reactions and your thoughts down below. I'd like to know what other people are thinking. Obviously, I've seen some message boards in different spots around Hawkeye Twitter in that universe, but I just want to know what other people are thinking. Is it as big of a deal with Hank Brown? Is there much to worry about in your eyes? Was the defense? I don't think the defense was the blame at all. Again, there's things to fix. There's always things to fix on every football team. How good did Mark look? Were we really happy with how he was performing on third down? We weren't taking a lot of deep shots. Maybe that was by design. But felt like we could have capitalized on a couple more drives, moved the football 2 or 3, 4 first downs. Needed to get one more to get in field goal range, or one more to really put ourselves in a spot where we can go for it on fourth. I feel like that's how Iowa played, and they played to their strengths, and it worked out for the most part. Just a couple miscues ended up being the difference in that one. So definitely a tough thing to do. Hey, before we jump into what's next for Iowa and my thoughts on what we think of this football team, I want you guys to do a favor and check our partners out over at No Rivals, right? Use code PTFS for free shipping. They have Iowa hats. I only got 6 on here. They have about 35, right? There's a ton of hats on that website. I got a couple here with me that I can show you guys. Upside down collection. Hawks, they got one here on the screen that says Hawkeyes. That one's more white. This is more of an off-white look. Really nice stuff from No Rivals. And then I also have this version here, Go Hawks script on the side. Really nice stuff from No Rivals. See, I don't wear them usually on the show here because I get a weird shadow right on my face. But I got about 5-6 of these hats rolling around the house consistently. Even if you're not looking for an Iowa hat, I'm sure you're looking for an Iowa hat if you're here on the Iowa fan perspective, but tons of different options there. Just about every school in the country feels like, and they're adding more and more and more. So tell them that we sent you by using code PTFS at checkout. Get yourself free shipping and get yourself one of the best hats in collegiate sportswear. So appreciate them for joining the partnership and being one of our partners from the start. It's been a blast. No Rivals has been absolutely awesome to us. So let's jump into the second part of this. What's next for the Hawks? What is the expectations? Is there new expectations? Did that game really change the fan base's perspective on what this football team could be? I'll start here. I had Iowa at 8-4 before the season started. Now, I had here, I'll just tell you what I had as losses. I had Iowa or Iowa State or Nebraska, where we're losing one of them, right? So you've lost the Iowa State game. I had the Indiana one as a win, to be honest with you. I did preseason. Penn State and Oregon, I had us dropping those at home, and I have us losing in the West Coast, the USC. Just the West Coast Hawks doesn't really work out. So I had 8-4. Is that a expectation we can still have to this point, or does it change? I am kind of more, it changes a little bit. It's the same football team I thought I was getting, but it's not. 8-4 seems more of a stretch. You're going to have to clip, it feels like a Oregon or Penn State at home, a USC on the road, and you're going to have to get Nebraska end of the year. Nebraska looks improved. That's on the road in Lincoln. Obviously, we know that one's tough. West Coast Hawks is an epidemic, a little bit of an issue for the Ferentz era. And then you get 2 of the best teams in the country coming to Kinnick Stadium. Now, Penn State, I think Iowa has matched up a little bit better with, and we'll talk about that when that comes around. But I think there's some things there Iowa can really play into their favor. Obviously, their defense is about as good as it gets. It'll be the best defense we face the entire year outside of Oregon's, who's also pretty darn good. I just think Oregon presents some different matchup issues for the Hawks. But I have 6-6, 7-5 is where I feel this is. Again, similar to the schedule I was just telling you, just based on what I've seen for the defense, what I've seen special teams wise, the offense continues to improve, but it's not a team that is going to rely on the offense to consistently outscore anybody and everybody. And that's not a way that Iowa wins football games. They're not built to do so. They don't want to do it that way. They want to play their brand of football and beat you in the margins and spots. It's one of those spots where you feel if they go to Wisconsin and look really good, that can get you back on track to maybe looking at that 8-4 a little more firmly or a little more confidently. If they go in there and they struggle in Camp Randall at night, they just announced that, I believe yesterday, that'll be, I think, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock kickoff in Camp Randall. Wisconsin looks rough, but it's a rivalry trophy. We're one of the easier games on their schedule. Their schedule is brutal. If you haven't got a chance to look at that thing, I wouldn't call us an easy game. Wisconsin's had their issues with us in recent years, and I think Iowa's a bad matchup for them right now. So just something to pay attention to. But with the bye week, like, we got to work to get healthy. Obviously, the Gronowski news would be nice. Hope to get Vander Zee back. You want the running back room with Moulton Patterson, Terrell Washington, and all those guys to get healthy and feeling confident again. Obviously, that's a big deal for the run game. It's a really, really good running back room. I'm still high on them. You want the offensive line to get the nicks and bruises done. Same with the secondary and the defense completely. But having another guy like Reese Vander Zee back, big deal, right? That's a number one true X that you can throw out wide and throw a couple of jump balls to. So hoping to get him back here in the not too distant future. I kind of want to see this team get more downfield. And that's a big reason Vander Zee is a big addition coming back from injury. We have the ability to stretch the field a little bit more. Again, a true X. I think that's Phillips and Gill and Anderson are better in that slot or number 2 slots rather than being the true X on the outside like a Vander Zee will. I think the tight ends are going to be fine. Obviously, losing a Stringa really does hurt. But we got young talent at tight end, and I think that's going to come along. Large is a better blocker than he is a receiving guy, but he's done serviceably just everything you've asked him to do for the most part. So that's something to pay attention to there. I also think when you look at this Iowa team and what they are, it's not really going to change. Like, they are who they are to a point. They're going to get better at some things, you hope, but they're not going to change their identity in the middle of this year to go win more football games. So let's jump in the schedule, actually. Now that we're kind of talking about it, I have it pulled up. Let's talk through this thing. And as I go through here, tell me what your thoughts are. I'm kind of in a spot where a bye week, Wisconsin, I feel really good about. I do. I think Iowa's a bad matchup for Wisconsin, so I'll give them Iowa W there. Penn State at home, Oregon at home. I know there's Minnesota in between there, but I had both of those as L's. I don't think Iowa gets Penn State or Oregon. I think they match up in a really good spot with Oregon or with Penn State. Sorry, I think they can make Aller sit in the pocket and cover those receivers pretty well and get after him and cause some issues. If they can slow the run game against Singleton and Allen, they could be in a really good spot. It's just that Penn State team's so good defensively. It's going to have to be like knock down, drag out even more than the Indiana game felt like at times. So something to pay attention to there. Oregon-wise, I think they're a little more athletic, better offensively. Dante Moore's looked really good. They can legit stretch you vertically with that offense and run the football really well. So that's something to pay attention to there. Let's jump back into the Minnesota game. Minnesota is going to be a tough one as always. They're coming into Kinnick, I believe. And I like Iowa's matchup there. I do. I think that they're going to be pretty solid. Drake Lindsey's been really good for them at quarterback. The defense is still solid. The offensive line is not what Minnesota offensive lines have been. So you're hoping that Iowa can just outplay them like they did in Minneapolis a season ago. I think that's a real possibility. So give me that as a win. Bye week, Oregon, and then USC on the West Coast. I just like principle of Iowa being on the West Coast hasn't looked good. So you're probably thinking L. And then I am pumped for this last 2-game stretch. I think Iowa gives one to Michigan State. I'm really excited to welcome them into Iowa City and put them in a tough spot. Like, we played poorly in East Lansing and they beat us. That wasn't a great Michigan State team, but I think Iowa brings them into Kinnick, handles them, plays really good football, gets them there. And then you get Nebraska on the road. Now, we've seen a couple different versions of Nebraska. We've looked like Nebraska against Cincinnati, where it felt like Cincinnati was half a drive away from winning that thing. Obviously, we've seen Michigan gash them in the run game. Hawks' run game looks good in some spots, and it's had its issues as well. But if they can run the football, they can beat Nebraska. If they can't run the football, things get a little tougher. The secondary for Nebraska has been better and better. Raiola's been really good this year. The offensive line for Nebraska is gettable. I caught some flack in the preseason from some Nebraska fans saying their offensive line be average is best. Still feel that way. Really good receivers, really good receiver room at Nebraska, really good running back room. Offensive line may be the issue and what's gettable for the Hawks in that situation. So I have the Hawks going at 7-5 now. Like I said, I think Penn State, Oregon, USC, there's 3 more losses. There's your 7-5 Hawks. 6-6 is in play. I got to be honest with you. 5-7 feels like it's in play. Dude, 9-3 is in play. You don't know. You could get Iowa getting one of the big boys in Penn State or Oregon, clipping one of them, and then or maybe they get USC. It's just one of those years and one of those spots. So excited to see where it is. But as a fan base, my expectation is kind of right where it was. Maybe a game lower than it was preseason. This is one of those teams where it feels like we're building for something in the next year or two. That stinks that Gronowski's only going to have the year. We assume, again, we don't know the injury news. We don't want anything bad. But building towards the future, I'd like to know what everybody else's thoughts are and their expectations, but manage them. Like, let's be realistic. I think that the world and the sky is falling atmosphere that Iowa Twitter was kind of on after that is irrational to a point. Like, how many people were going into that game thinking Iowa was going to win or win by multiple scores handily, and then to come out of it, like, I think it was just the way we lost that got people kind of fired up in a certain way. So don't be irrational after that. I understand we're fans. We're college football fans, some of the most irrational people on earth. It's what makes the sport so great. But just being completely honest with you, that's just kind of how I felt on everything. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, I'll have a Wisconsin preview coming out next week for the Wisconsin game. Pumped to do that. Excited to be doing this again. Again, bye week stuff. Not always the most exciting, but you got to talk the status of the Hawks and how things currently sit. So thank you for joining in on everything. Again, subscribe down below, like the video as well. Free, not hard to do. It's free for you. Literally, you don't have to do any work other than touch a button. Check that out there. Check us out on all social media platforms at Play the Fight Pod. That's Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok as well. Jake does a great job on our TikTok page, and listening to the live show weekly, usually Wednesday nights about 7:30 Central. It's been a blast. Been a great college football season. Hope the Hawks continue to get back on the right track and win some football games. Let's go win a rivalry trophy in a week and a half. Thoughts? I think invading Camp Randall sounds like a pretty darn good time, right? Appreciate everybody for joining in. Happy you were here. Again, it's going to be a good one. Hawks going to be all right. Love you guys. Go Hawks.